morning, Mandy. Welcome onto the Zoom this morning, and would really like to cover off a little bit of your background. And would you like to take a few seconds to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Cathy. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. My name's Mandy Beverley, and I am running the Remarkable Group. And this is a small boutique agency all about personal leadership, mindset, and relationships. Because I find that these are the most important three things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So what I do is I help people dissolve the emotional charge. Now, I've been in the personal development phase for such a long time, but it all started way back when I was nursing when I was a teenager. I left school and I went nursing when I was 17. And from there, I was fascinated always with the mindset of people because, we used to, you'd see some really tricky things when you're quite young and just how to deal with it and how patients dealt with it. So mindset's always been something that I've been fascinated about. So
absolutely, Mandy. And you and I have known each other for almost 17 or 18 years, I think now.
Yeah.
And I've seen your whole interest in mindset grow. And obviously, you and I have had a discussion around our young people. And perhaps you want to give us some insight as to what you believe you are seeing, but also what you believe are some opportunities that these young people can use to facilitate them moving through some tricky periods in their life.
I think, it's such a big question, Cathy, and such a great question as well, because I think in today's world, people are only looking at half the picture. Mm-hmm. They're constantly looking at how can I be more like someone else? How can I be more than who I am? How can I not feel so bad about myself all the time? And so the questions that they're beginning to ask themselves are not bringing out great answers. It's kind of like when you go Googling in the brain. Well, go Google on our computers, right? You can just put anything in and any answer comes up. But the more specific you are, the more careful you are, then the better the answer is. And I think we've got to treat our brains the same way. And I think young people today are exposed to so much. I mean, we even have trouble coping because we've got to learn all of this technology, this multitasking, all of this that goes on. But they're sort of brought up with it, so they almost don't know any difference. But the coping strategies are still not there of how to cope with this.
And it's really interesting because you touched very briefly on comparison. Being in a world where there is comparison. I don't know if you've seen a lot of that comparison in our youth, and what would you believe are some really good tips for people to use if they feel they're comparing themselves to others all the time?
Well, one really good tip to use about comparison is we're often comparing what we see on the outside with how we feel on the inside. So we are judging someone just by the cover. So it's like judging a book by the cover, but we have no idea of the contents. We have no idea of the pain. We have no idea of their story. And when we judge someone according to a very superficial level, we're always going to find ourselves lacking. All of us will. But when we don't appreciate ourselves for who we are, we're also going to always find ourselves lacking as well. And so there's some concepts that I really would love for our young people today, who are just like us, like we were trying to navigate all of these things. I would really love for them to know some of these universal concepts that actually are part of how they live in the world. And so with comparison, it's like, what exactly are you comparing yourself to? It's starting to ask some real questions that actually give you a specific answer rather than a general answer.
So do you have an example of somebody who may be comparing themselves to something? If we go into social media, it could be, and I'm thinking, it could be looking at somebody else's life and thinking they look happier or more popular than what I am.
Yeah, well, that's a big problem today, isn't it? I mean, we all love Instagram and Pinterest and all of these amazing places, but what happens is if we're only looking at one aspect of that person, we don't have a fair, it's not a fair fight, so to speak. And so with comparison, I think you've got to sort of be a little smarter and go, what is the story that these people are actually trying to tell? Because at the end of the day, Instagram is used as a marketing tool. Yes, it's used for connection, but the big picture, a lot of these people are using it for marketing. So of course they're going to market they want to market the best part of life, because as human beings, we're wired to go towards pleasure and to avoid pain. But actually the universal energy means we actually have a mixture of both pleasure and pain. So I think with the example with Instagram, you might be following someone that is, that you admire. But I think you've got to kind of also ask yourself, where am I doing that I see in somebody else, but where am I doing it in my way? So we're comparing ourselves to someone that might have been doing something for 10 years and we're just getting started, and then we beat ourselves up because we're like, well, I'm not like that person. But we're totally distancing ourselves from the actual hard work that's gone on to create that. And I think that we need a dose of reality in there, that no one's going to just be an instant overnight success. Even the overnight successes take months, years to happen.
And I think you touched on reality. We look at those perfect body shapes and those perfect images that we do see, and knowing how many filters and how many change tools you can get out there, whilst we're seeing the perfection and the image that we're seeing, how real is that? And are we really comparing ourselves to something that is real?
We're not. That is actually a better way of looking at it, because we're not comparing ourselves to something that exists. And there's so much talk now on models that are airbrushed to appear even smoother and thinner and happier and better, with a smoother skin tone. And I mean, everything is manufactured. And so I think you've got to be really careful about what you're comparing yourself to. And, and I think it starts with actually going, well, what is it about me that I can appreciate? And the answer may be, well, nothing at first, but you've just got to keep asking yourself that, because the quality of your life is the quality of the questions that you ask. And so to actually begin to think about how special you actually are, if you were to really get to know astronomy, cosmology, and all of these things that are required for us to appear on Earth in our human suit, you would just be absolutely amazed. I mean, it is a big, big story. And I think we just need to have a little bit of appreciation that we are in the right place. We are here to do something. And what can we appreciate ourselves to begin to bring out more of who we are, rather than who we think we're not.
Absolutely. And, in some of the readings I've done, Mandy, and you're the expert, and I'm, completely learning in this area. But one of the things that I've really become aware of is to actually count your blessings. And to me, it can be as simple as every single morning when you wake up, what are the 10 things that you're really pleased about? Because that can actually change your mind for the day. And, you start off and you go one, and eventually I'm going, thank you for the grass and thank you for the trees and but you get into the habit of doing that, and it does make you feel slightly more in tune and in a more positive state. I don't know what you
mentioned something really important. You mentioned a habit. Okay, so whatever you do it once, it's easy, but it's continuing on to do it, and just create a habit of appreciation and gratitude rather than the habit of beating yourself up. They both take the same amount of energy. But as you said, first thing in the morning, what can you appreciate? I went out for a quick walk beforehand, and the sun was shining, and it was just filtering through the trees, and we sort of live on a property, so there was some cows, and there were, you know, I took my little dog for a walk, and he was so happy. That if I find it really hard to be grateful on some days I will just start with, you know, being grateful for my heart that has been beating since before I was born. And I'm grateful for my lungs that fill up with air even when I don't think about it. And then I'm grateful for all the cells in my body that know exactly what to do. I don't have to say, beat my heart, take a deep breath now. I don't have to say, right now I need a biochemical reaction that does this to this to this. There's so much intelligence in our body. So sometimes I will start there, and just to really appreciate the magnificence of the human body and how much it does without us even thinking about it. That is some place to start.
And wow, isn't that an image for anyone going through that self-doubt, to actually cut off that external world that is bringing that self-doubt in, but actually being in that very moment of going, I'm beautiful just as I am, and I'm a miracle as I sit here. And no matter what a friend has done to me on Instagram, or no matter what is happening in the external world and what people are saying within my peer group, I can put that bubble around that and go, I'm perfect for what I'm meant to be. I'm on this planet for a purpose. And as you've just said, I'm a miracle in terms of my body knows exactly what to be doing if there's nothing else that I'm grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, even, you know, you pop food in and it just digests. You don't have to decide what it does. You can actually help it along, but you know, there's so much about our human bodies and about who we are before we even start to move further out into our environment. I've got a little saying that I love to say, and it is, I wonder what miracles the universe will behold for me today.
Wow.
And I love saying that because automatically my mind goes to, oh, I wonder, rather than going, oh God, another day, here we go, I wonder what's going to happen, you know. But if I go, well, I wonder what miracles the universe is going to behold for me today, suddenly my mind is going looking for miracles.
Yeah, and perhaps, Mandy, on that, because we do want to keep these really short, and I know you and I can talk for ages and ages and ages, perhaps if we just end off with that, and I'd really like to thank you for sharing that with us today, and if you'd like to end off with that exact same statement, that would be absolutely perfect.
Cool. Well, the statement is, whatever you're doing throughout the day, just go, I wonder what miracles the universe beholds for me today. And just watch your mind start to go looking for them, because they are there.
Thanks, Mandy, and thanks for joining me on our podcast today.